Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on the time you're watching this. My name is Emmanuella Imo.
Hello, and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now, let's get started into this episode.
I'm the founder and CEO of Ella Communications, a full service marketing agency where we help non-profit organizations to build and grow using communications, tech, and digital media. I am a Nigerian, but currently residing in North Cyprus, where I'm studying communications and media studies for my PhD.
You studied in Cyprus, no? Communication for your PhD, right?
Yes, communications and media studies.
That's interesting. Now, tell me a little bit about you, Emmanuella. When you were in Abia State, but your name looked very, very important. Imo, we also have Imo State, no? That's interesting. Anyway, so tell me a little bit about you growing up in Nigeria, no? Go ahead and do that.
Okay, growing up in Nigeria, well, I'm from Abia State, but I've never lived in Abia State. I was born in Kwara State, Ilorin. And then I can't remember how old I was. I think maybe 7 or 10. I can't remember the exact age. But then 2003, we moved from Kwara State to Abuja, and we have been living there. That's my family and I. For as long as I can remember, we've been living in Abuja. So secondary school in Abuja, a bit of my primary school in Abuja. University was back in Enugu. UNN, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and then I served in Warri, Delta State. So I've been kind of all around Nigeria a little bit. I think that's basically it for growing up. So immediately after my service, I left Nigeria. That's growing up in Nigeria, basically.
You are an expert in communication, and that is very important. Communication, I usually say, this podcast is everything, because you must know how to sell yourself and also sell what you do. That is, if you don't know about communication, you cannot do that.
Definitely.
So can you tell me why you chose communication as a field of study? Because you studied communication, you have a PhD in that in Cyprus, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So tell me, why did you choose communication?
Well, my journey to communication is amazing or funny. I studied French for my undergraduate, so I have a BA in French, foreign languages, so French and Russian language to be precise. But while I was serving in Warri, Delta State, I started running 2 nonprofit organizations. I started one at first, and then I started the other one. So I saw teenagers that were victims of social vices. So when I say social vices, some of these teenagers, they didn't have money to go to school. Some of the girls, their parents were forcing them into prostitution, like go and do what your mates are doing to bring money back for the house. Some of the boys were forced into cultism and a lot of things. And the way Warri is, if you're Nigerian, you can have a picture of the way Warri is. And when I was serving there as a young girl, I really wanted to help these teenagers. I just wanted to do something to help them not succumb to all the things that they were going through. And I found that the girls were coming to me. They were drawing nearer to me because they seemed to kind of like me. I don't know why. So we got talking, and that was how I started my nonprofit organization in Warri. So I would go to different schools in Warri, Delta State, training the teenagers and equipping them with different skills that they could use to build themselves as young adults. So basically the idea was to get them to stop or not to succumb to the social vices that were there. And in order to do this, I needed to give them a substitute. So the substitute was the skills. So skills like making Ankara bags and shoes. What else? Crafts, handcrafts, tie and dye, all of those things. Then back then in 2016, so those were the things that were kind of in vogue at that point. we had not really gone so much into tech. So yeah, that was what I was doing. And I did that for about 2 years. For the period I was in Warri, I did for about 2 years. I got a lot of support and everything. But then towards the end of my stay in Warri, when it was time for me to leave Warri and come over to Cyprus for my master's and then my PhD, I had to leave the work with my volunteers because I had people, some were friends, some were not, some were interested in what I did and they wanted to support by volunteering or teaching the skills that they had. So when it was time for me to leave, I had this huge partnership deal that was going to get us an office, and so many other things. And I had to leave the organization with my volunteers to go on with the work that I'd already started doing. In fact, we were supposed to start up skill-based clubs in secondary schools so that all these teenagers can be learning different skills in the schools where they are for free. But when I left and I got here to Cyprus for my master's, I realized that because of lack of structure and some other things, it was not just working out. So the whole work just crumbled. In summary, the whole work just crumbled and I was really devastated. I really wanted to help these teenagers and they kept calling me and they were like, Auntie Ella, you're not coming back. Auntie Ella, we need your help. Or there were issues going on back home with their parents, which I used to be like a solicitor for them before, and they would still call me from wherever they were, and it was heartbreaking. So trying to solve all of these problems that I experienced with my own nonprofit organization, and then I started another one. Before I left. I did about 2 outreaches, and I had a co-founder. I left the work in her hands, and she couldn't just meet up with everything. So all of these issues was what helped me realize that other nonprofits were going through, were going through this issue that I went through, and they also needed help. And then I realized that I had a flair for tech. I had a flair for media, communications, all of that, which I didn't know it was communications basically. I just knew I had a flair for that. And I realized that having to do all of this could contribute to the work that nonprofits are doing and also help them solve the problem. So I didn't want to go back into doing French again because I had the opportunity to, do international relations, which everyone will expect that because you studied French, you should do international relations. So basically, yeah, I think all of that experience and trying to find a solution for myself pushed me into communications and marketing for nonprofits. And really, if you look at it, a lot of African nonprofits, because I'm focused on African nonprofits, do not have access to the visibility or the publicity that they need for their work to be able to attract the resources that they need. So all of this was channeled into that basically. So all this experience pushed me into doing communications and media studies. So when I did it for my master's, I got a clearer view. I got exposed, and I also saw quite deeper than what I had already seen. And yeah, basically that's the long story behind it.
There's always a backstory for most of the things that we do in life. We don't just jump into things and start doing it. Mm-hmm. It's also good to be able to explain this backstory because this is actually the brain behind the project at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. So now, for somebody who don't understand what is meant by communication, can you tell us about the basis because you studied it before you start to practice it?
Yeah. Okay. For someone who doesn't understand communication, I'm talking to you now. We're communicating. Basically, communication is just the transfer of messages or the transfer of information from one person to the other. That's in layman's terms what communication is. But when you want to go deeper into communications, there are different aspects of it, and it will depend on what dimension you want to look at it as. So the emails you send out are different forms of communication. The text messages, your social media, your website, everything, all of these make up communication. in every organization, the activities that go on seamlessly is a form of communication, because we have to be on the same page, we have to be on the same table to know that, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is the next step to take. So having to be on that same page, taking someone from this step of information to the other, all of that involves communication. So basically, that's what communication is about. But then I am focused on digital communication, digital media, and the way it affects non-profits. So when you want to look at it in that dimension, you will be saying what makes up your communication internally and externally. So internally would have to do with how the members of your team or the management relate. How do they communicate? How does message or information go around everyone in the organization? Now, when you say externally, how do you take that information from inside and take it outside? And how do you tend to showcase your organization when it comes to the public? So public relations, communications, they go hand in hand, but this is what it will look like when you're talking about when it comes to the organization level for communications. So the external will make up of would comprise of your PR, will comprise of your digital media, your websites, your social media, and all of that interaction. So how do you take it from inside and help us see something on the outside? Basically, that's what communications is.
Because both of them actually are related, communication and marketing, this is what you do for NGO.
Yeah.
I would like you to tell me what is actually the impact of communication and marketing for non-profit organization, because usually these are not the big guy in marketing industry, but they are going to have to convince people to be able to get the money to do their thing and also to send the messages out. So communication and marketing is something that you cannot avoid.
Definitely.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so you've already said it. You have to convince people to support you. So how do you convince them to support you? That is where communications and marketing comes in. And we find ourselves in the digital world right now, 2022. In fact, from when COVID started, everyone began to see the importance of the online space. And when we want to talk about communications or marketing right now, we cannot do away with that part of it. So when it comes to for-profit organizations, that's businesses that are making profit, it's quite easier for you to get people to drop money to buy something, because there is a want, there is a desire, there is a need that they're trying to fulfill. So let me give a practical example. Maybe I have acne on my face and it's so bad. And for a woman, having acne on the face is sometimes embarrassing, and it can diminish the self-esteem of every person. I've gone through acne before, I can tell you that for free. So when I see a self-care product, is it self-care? Face care product, and they're telling me that this product is going to clear the acne on my face, I'm not going to hesitate to drop, even if you say $10,000. If I don't have it, I'm going to look for the money. I don't know if you're getting me. I'm going to look for the money to drop $10,000 to get that face care or skincare product for my face, because there is a problem I am trying to solve. There is acne on my face, I want to clear it. But when it comes to non-profits, there is no problem for them. You're trying to get people to care about other people's problems. So someone has sickle cell, the person has AVN, alveolar necrosis, and you want to run a surgery as a non-profit, you want to do that surgery for free, you need people to donate to the organization. I really don't care. I don't have AVN, so why should I donate? Why should I support? It will only take someone who has either experienced sickle cell or has experienced AVN to kind of feel concerned to want to help. So the role of marketing and communications is trying to exactly get people to care about the work that you're doing. So creating publicity, branding your organization, marketing your organization, all of this has to do with getting people to care about the work you do as a non-profit organization. So basically, yeah, that is it. So all the components that come in place would be the tactics or the strategies you're trying to use to get people to care. So when it comes to for-profit, we can say you're running ads, you're doing videos, you're using influencers, and all of that. All these things can work for non-profit organizations, but the manner or the way in which you use it is going to be quite technical and different. So that's why marketing for non-profit and marketing for profit is very, very different. In fact, I feel like it's more difficult because you're trying to solve people's problems. So you're trying to get me to care about someone else's problem. I have my problems. So why should I care? So it's you now have to deal with the mind of the person. You have to deal with how the person or the target audience you're trying to reach out to cares. Why they worry about some certain problems, and you're going to have to use that to connect with them so that they can actually support. So yeah, I think I've thrown a little light on marketing and communications for nonprofits. I hope I didn't talk too much.
You never talk too much here at all because we're here for this.
Yeah.
All right. You did make mention of the word strategy, and that is very important for us here.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend as the best strategy for non-profit organizations to market themselves? I know there's something that don't come natural now when you're talking of marketing or you're talking of NGO. It appears as if it's not important, but it is very important.
Absolutely.
But without a good marketing strategy, it's going to be difficult for you to sell your message out.
Yeah.
But now, what are the strategies that you think are working or should work for Nigeria or African NGOs?
Okay. I'm glad that you said Nigerian or African NGOs. So the truth is African NGOs are lagging behind when it comes to marketing and communications. When you look at organizations like Charity Water, Bill Gates Foundation, Rockefeller, Roddenberry, all of those huge names. When you look at them, some people will say they have access to funding, which we can say yes, they have access to funding to do what they do. But when it comes to African organizations, I think it's not only access to funding that limits us from marketing or taking marketing important. I think it's also ignorance and lack of education that makes us not see that as important. So when it comes to now, when we want to bring it down to strategies, there wouldn't be one way or one particular, or if I want to outline a whole lot of ideas for you, there wouldn't be one way that will work for every organization. So if you heard me when I was speaking the last time, I said, depending on your target audience, you need to know what target audience you're reaching out to and what they care about so that you'll be able to meet them at that point of need. So it's like you're coming from this end, they are coming from this end, and you are meeting somewhere. So at that point where you're meeting is where your messaging is going to be coming out to. So before you even start to talk about strategies, you need to say, what are the things you have done? Or what are the things you are doing? What are the things you have in place before you say you want to even start to market your organization? So what platforms do you want to use? What channels do you want to use? Who is your target audience? And what message are you trying to pass across? These are very, very important things you need to have in place, or you need to know and identify before you even start to think of strategies. And unfortunately, a lot of nonprofits just want the fast way, the easy way out. They do not think about all of these things before they start to even think about strategies and wanting to market their organization. So now let me make this more practical. Imagine you are an organization that works with children and you're trying to raise funds. You're not going to be reaching out to teenagers or children to get funds for your organization. You're going to be reaching out to people who have children, parents, to be able to care, because it's only a parent that would understand what it means for a child to be helpless, for a child to be homeless, for a child to go on without food. So because you have identified this particular target audience for your donors, there are different categories of audiences. You have been able to identify that the parents are your target audience for your donors. You're going to now know the kind of message you're going to craft and how exactly you want to reach out to them in terms of strategies. But if you want to talk vaguely about strategies, there are different things African nonprofits can do to reach out to donors. Making use of the digital space is the very first thing. But to make use of your digital space, you would want to ensure that your platforms are optimized. You are on the right platform. Not every platform is for every organization. So you're on the right platform, your platform are optimized, your branding is uptight, you're making use of video marketing. So video marketing is one strategy you can use. So when I say video marketing, I mean creating documentaries, sharing stories from the field. Let us see what is happening. Let us get to meet with your volunteers. Let's connect with them one-on-one, online, by video interviews. Let us get to see you as a founder, and all of that. So video marketing is one very good strategy you can use to connect with donors. Another one is storytelling. So we have stories, practical stories. Like working in nonprofit industry will help you know that they are even the ones that have more stories than every other person, because you get to meet people every day that have issues based on what you're solving. You get to meet people that have challenges. Now, these are stories you can pick from the field and move them into videos or blogs or text, all of that into social media designs and tell a story around it. People like stories, and it's also easier for you as a nonprofit to get people to care from stories. Now, there was this organization I worked with. They were trying to raise funds for someone who had to go through a surgery. Now, what I told them, the lady who has the organization is my friend. What I told her was, it's simple. Take us through the day-to-day activity of this warrior, this sickle cell warrior, and let us see what she would have been able to do if she did not have this aviloonychosis that she's going through. And when they took us through that journey and took us through her passion, like they just created a documentary out of it, people really felt sorry for her, which is what we expected. But then the bigger expectation was we wanted people to support, and people supported because they put themselves in the shoe of that person. So that's video marketing and storytelling infused together. So video marketing, storytelling, I've mentioned two. Those are two strategies you can use. Another strategy is the use of brand ambassadorship or influencer marketing. So influencer marketing and brand ambassadorship is something that a lot of African nonprofits do not know how to use for their organizations. I don't know why, but like I said, lack of education and ignorance. So when it comes to influencer marketing or brand ambassadorship, you simply need to identify people who have an interest in what you do as a nonprofit. And then you strike a kind of a deal with them, whatever it is. I cannot really say specifically what kind of deal is going to be, but then you have to craft something that will be beneficial to them and also beneficial to you as an organization. So basically, their work is to publicize what you do as a nonprofit. So it can be in any way. It can be maybe through social media, maybe Instagram lives, Facebook lives, social media live programs. Or if you have a podcast like this, it can be through podcasts. It can be through outreaches. So maybe you have an outreach, they're trying to help you fundraise, or those people come for the outreaches, depending on what agreement you come to. Now, this works effectively because these influencers or brand ambassadors are people who have influence, like the name implies. They are people who have a large audience. So because they care about this and they're telling their audience, I care about this, I want you to join me to support, people will definitely want to support. Now, crowdfunding comes into this, peer-to-peer fundraising comes into this, and you are able to drive the word out for your organization. Now, a lot of African nonprofits are focused on raising funds, but then they forget the fact that visibility and awareness for the work that they do is going to in turn convert into funding somehow. They don't believe it, but somehow it's definitely going to, because when people get to hear about your organization constantly, the word is spreading like wildfire. Someone somewhere is going to hear, want to partner, want to collaborate, want to support, want to donate to your organization. So all of this get to help you. So do not be focused majorly on raising funds. Be focused on creating awareness, because that is always at the top of the funnel. Be focused on creating awareness and educating people about what you do. Education can never be enough. So some key pointers I would state for influencer marketing or brand ambassadorship is do your research on the personality you're trying to get involved with your organization, because people are people. So you don't want something that would come and stain the name you have in your organization already, or someone that will come and stain that name or destroy that name you have been trying to build. So ensure you do your research, ensure the person's vision, the person's goals, activities align with yours so that there wouldn't be a clash of interest. Also, ensure you have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. You have that in place so that there wouldn't be had I known or a cause to regret in the future. So make sure there is a Memorandum of Understanding or a contract, and you sign it. Both parties sign it, and everyone knows that this is what they are expected to do. This is what they are getting in return. This is what you are not allowed to do for the organization, or all of that. So basically, yeah, I think those are three major strategies that African nonprofits can leverage on to market their organizations in the time that we find ourselves.
Now, because we are looking at the NGOs in Nigeria and Africa, and looking at how they can market themselves and promote what they are doing, so that in return, of course, they can have more people supporting them, so they can then eventually be able to help the people that they want to help. The question that I would like to ask you is, what role do you think NGO are playing in the Nigerian African society? I mean, talking of 2022.
Well, NGOs play a very, very large role in every nation, not just Africa. Now, this is because, let's take Nigeria, for example. Nigeria has a lot of issues, a lot of issues. And the truth is, our leaders are not interested in solving those issues for us at the moment. I'm saying at the moment because we're hopeful that in the nearest future, these problems will be solved. Excuse me. So not every problem can be solved by the government. And that is where the non-profit organizations come in. Now, for example, the problem of sickle cell. I'm passionate about sickle cell, and I've worked with a lot of sickle cell organizations. So I keep using sickle cell as an example. The problem of sickle cell in Nigeria at the moment cannot be solved. You know why? Because sickle cell is not seen as a communicable disease. And a lot of them say it. Sickle cell is not a communicable disease, so we cannot pay so much attention to it. Sickle cell is not COVID, so we cannot pay attention to it. But sickle cell is actually a pandemic in Nigeria, because Nigeria has the highest number of sickle cell warriors in the world. So imagine having 2-something million babies born in Nigeria every year, and they're living with sickle cell. And how many people do we have in Nigeria? That's a lot. But the government is not focused on this. Non-profits are the ones focused on this and trying to solve this problem by creating awareness, educating people, providing for these people living with sickle cell. So sickle cell is just like a major example. Cancer is another one. People are dying of cancer and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's helping or supporting people living with cancer by maybe providing HMO for them. Do you understand? So NGOs actually contribute so much to solving most of the problems that we have that we have in Nigeria and Africa, to be precise. In fact, in the world, the problem of hunger, the problem of lack of access to water, education, there are still some places in Nigeria that they don't have chairs, books to study, children are sitting on the floor. Some of them are in waterlogged classrooms. The government doesn't really care. They're not worried about that at the moment. Like I said, this is not their focus. So NGOs are actually solving social problems. They are contributing to solving problems. And like I would always say, people that know me know that I say this thing a lot. NGOs are the solution to the problems we have in Africa, like the social problems we have in Africa, because the African leadership, they're focused on much more different things than social problems. There will always be social problems, but NGOs would help to curb or reduce these problems in the world.
In terms of accountability of NGO operating in Nigeria and Africa, I'm not looking at Western NGO now, I'm looking at African-owned NGO. How do you monitor what they are actually doing from what they are saying they are going to do?
When you say monitor, how do I? So do you mean how do I know that the organizations are doing what they say they will do?
Absolutely.
Okay. When it comes to that, right now, I have access to over 1,500 nonprofits registered across Africa. But then the majority of the population of this 1,500 comes from Nigeria. And I can say that for the organizations that I have access to, I know I can vouch for these organizations because I have seen the work that they do. I know some of their founders personally, and I know that at least I can handpick 50 for you and tell you that these organizations are sustainable, they are doing the projects that they are being funded for, and they are making impact. Now, a lot of people do not really understand what it means to make impact. Some would say making impact is going to schools to donate books, or going to rural areas to donate sanitary pads to young girls. But those are not sustainable activities or programs. Those things are not sustainable because you don't solve the problem. But then when it comes to sustainability, you mean organizations that are doing stuff that you can measure. You can say, okay, from 2022 or 2020 to 2022, we've been able to reach 100 girls or 100 certain number of people, and these are the results we've been able to guarantee, or these are the results we have gotten from reaching them. So they've gone from stage A to stage B. When it comes to that, I can tell you, I know a few organizations I can handpick and let you know that they are able to manage or monitor their programs. And I know that people are sort of scared to give to African nonprofits or Nigerian nonprofits because they believe that they will just take the money and not deliver on their word. But I would also like to put this out there as a disclaimer that the organizations that actually do the work are down in the suburbs. They don't even have online presence. People don't know them. They do not have visibility and publicity as you would expect. They are the ones who live there in the rural areas with the people. They are the ones who go down there doing so much work, and you will be amazed at what some of them are doing. There are credible organizations that you can actually measure their impact and know that, yeah, they are sustainable.
Thank you so much for that. That is very important. Like I said, I'm not going to drag that line further than that, but maybe on another occasion we can talk about it because you see, the NGO in Nigeria are also part of the Nigerian society. Yeah. Just like maybe, for example, when we say the Nigerian politicians are corrupt, I've come to the conclusion that it is time we start attacking the Nigerian population. Yeah. That it is the Nigerian population that are corrupt. If the Nigerian population were not corrupt, they would not be able to produce politicians that are corrupt. So in that sense, if we want to remove corrupt politicians, we start by ourselves. Because if you don't I believe that if the people are clean, their politician will be afraid to be corrupt, just to cut it there. Now, looking at the NGO, looking at maybe some people who want to go into the work of NGO, or maybe those who are already there, they have not yet been able to fine-tune their operation. For this, they do not know yet who they are actually serving. I'm looking at audience now, because you did make mention of audience before, target audience. So I want you to help me. What do you think is the right approach to be able to identify your real audience, so that is what you are targeting, instead of maybe try to solve all the problem in the world?
Okay. So there is a difference between running a non-profit organization and running a philanthropic organization. Now, people do not know this, and so they tend to say, I'm donating to girls in the schools, I'm feeding 5,000 today, I'm making 5 million naira grants available to women who want to start businesses. And they just keep doing different things. And then they say they have Emmanuella Heart Foundation. So this Emmanuella Care Foundation or whatever is a philanthropic work. You're solving problems, you're helping people, but what you're doing is not sustainable. So I just wanted to state that what you're doing is not sustainable. You're just a philanthropist. But when you're running a non-profit organization, you have a structure to which you do things. You have specific programs. You're trying to solve a particular sustainable development goal. So we have 17 SDGs. You would first of all need to identify which of the SDG you are focused on. That's the first step to take when you want to start your non-profit organization. You will need to identify which SDG goal are you focused on. Then you move to what problem are you trying to solve under this SDG. So when you identify the SDG, identify the problem and your solution to that problem. So for example, you want to solve the problem of hunger. How do you plan to go about solving the problem of hunger? Another thing I think I should have stated is not everyone needs to start a nonprofit. Some of us just need to volunteer with organizations that are already doing something that we're passionate about. Some others need to intern. Some others need to just carry that money and give to organizations that are doing something sustainable. Let them carry out that project for you. Some of us just need to do a birthday fundraiser and leave it at a birthday fundraiser. You do not need to start an NGO. There are so many NGOs that are not doing anything. You're just getting money and frustrating the lives of people in the world. You don't add to that number. So identify your SDG goal, identify the problem under that SDG goal that you want to solve, and also identify how you want to solve it. So after this, you will need to do a needs analysis. I think I have a video on my YouTube channel about this. So you need to do a needs analysis. A needs analysis is basically going into the communities that you want to solve, you want to help. So where your beneficiaries are majorly in, you want to go there and find out if the solution to that problem that you have is what they need. So sometimes organizations are caught up in assumptions. They assume everything by themselves, and the founder is like, okay, these people in Makoko need access to water, and because of water, that's why a lot of things are happening, all of that. And the people in Makoko don't need water because water is not the root cause of the problem. But you would not know if you do not go to Makoko to ask questions. You would not know if you don't go to Makoko to connect with the people, the beneficiaries that you want to reach out to. So you need to do that to be able to help you know if the solution you are providing is actually the solution to the problem that those beneficiaries need. So when you do all of this, you now craft out your programs or your activities, and then ensure that you don't have too many programs. You can have even one program and you're making solid impact and transforming the lives of people that you're trying to reach out to. So there are different target audiences. We have the beneficiary audience, which is the very first one. The donor audience, which are the people who are supporting to your organization or supporting your organization. Sorry. You also have the partners or the collaborators. These fall into a different category because partners or collaborators can be organizations, can be individuals, and there are specific kind of people or kind of organization that you want to work with. Now you need to be able to group these target audiences and think, reflect, where are they? Who are the kind of people that you want to reach out to? What is their age bracket? What location do they stay on? And do they live in? What is their preferred means of communication? Because you will need to communicate with them. So is it social media, LinkedIn, emails, text messages, WhatsApp, phone calls? You need to know the different categories of people you're trying to reach out to, and also how you can communicate with them. So the beneficiary target audience, you will find out from that, find out how to reach out to them through your needs analysis. The partners and the collaborators and also the donors you will have to do your research, your target audience research, by also asking questions and also doing your research online, basically. So these are the major categories of target audiences you can have for a nonprofit, and also how to start your own nonprofit organization.
Now, when you were explaining before, you did mention of the fact that Nigerian and African NGO are lagging behind in terms of communication and marketing. So I want you to share with me why you think that is the case. Maybe if there is something they are missing, they're supposed to do that they are not doing, or maybe something that is responsible for why they are lagging behind.
Ignorance, lack of education and awareness about some of these tech tools or communication solutions that nonprofit organizations can use for to grow their organization and build it to the length at which they want it to get to. Another thing would also be the third world factor. So we're in the third world. We necessarily do not have access to a lot of things as the Western organizations will have access to. Data is one major issue. So data is a very big issue when it comes to Nigeria, first of all. I'm not sure of other African countries, but I know African countries suffer from some of these things. So data is one major issue. So ignorance, lack of awareness and education, lack of the third world factor is one challenge. I think another challenge is, what do I call this? The know-it-all syndrome, and also the I do not need it syndrome. I don't know what to call it, but then I think that's the best way to put it. A lot of African nonprofit leaders tend to think that they know it all because of their educational status or their status in the community, in the society. So you are an honorable somewhere or executive something somewhere, and you think that because of your status, you know everything. And because of that, they are not eager to want to learn, or they are not humble enough to want to learn from people that know it. Africans have that issue. It's a mentality that we have. And I've experienced that with a lot of nonprofits that I've engaged with, nonprofit founders that I've engaged with. They just think because of your status, they know it. So I don't know. That's a major issue. So having to know it all, meanwhile you don't know it. And also ignorance, like I said, they don't want to learn. They don't want to expose themselves. Lack of exposure to would be one challenge. Yeah, so I think basically that's it. Not wanting to learn is a very, very major issue. We're just comfortable with the level that we are at as nonprofit leaders, and we don't want to expand. We don't want to connect with other people. We don't want to network with other people, and we just remain in that box. All of these things contribute to the issue of marketing and communications when it comes to African nonprofit.
Now, within your ONG, you have your own NGO, right?
I used to. I actually quit.
Okay. Why did you quit?
And like I said, when I left Nigeria, when I was telling my story, when I left Nigeria, um, having to do all of that, because I left it in the hands of people, it wasn't working. And so in the time of living and staying here, that process of thinking and seeing how I can go back to the work, I stumbled on communications, and I have not really been able to go back to say I want to relaunch. And in the process of working in development sector, I've seen a lot of things that I was doing wrong, a lot of loopholes I had with my structure, with my marketing and communications, with my sustainability, with my programs, and all of that. So because of all of those loopholes I've seen, I think maybe wanting to make everything perfect has not made me go back to starting again. But hopefully before 2023 or between now and 2023, I may start. I'm not certain, because like I said, not everyone needs to start a nonprofit. I'm just realizing that. So I may possibly partner with other organizations or start a CSR for my company and do something for people. But I'm not sure about starting again right now.
It's okay. It's okay. That's fine. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, we already talked about the role they play in Africa now.
Yeah.
But looking into the future, where do you think that role is going to go? Is it going to improve? Is it going to continue? Or is it going to be irrelevant? Maybe looking into the future of Africa.
Well, I wouldn't know the exact answer to give to that, but I feel like this United Nations Sustainable Development Goal has a time frame, which I believe is 2030. So if we're looking at 2030, and by then, hopefully, these social problems have been solved, I think some organizations may not really have, I stand to be corrected, but they may not really have a role to play in solving that problem, because the problem has been solved. But then you can never really say that social problems will totally be carved out or totally be eradicated in Africa or in the world, because we would always have that class system. So the middle class, the upper class, and the lower class. Also the lowest class. So we would always have that class system. And I believe that as long as that class system continues to exist, nonprofits would always have a job to do in helping people and supporting people.
Okay. Now, before you were saying that that one of the challenges that NGO face in Nigeria, in Africa, is a problem of data.
Yeah.
Can you explain that better? What are you actually referring to?
Okay, data like data for subscriptions. So in Nigeria, for example, data is expensive. So when you say data, I mean you're a Nigerian, MTN, Airtel, all of those people. Now we need data to be online. We need data to be online. We need internet connection to be online. Now, having access to this is quite expensive. So the last time I went to Nigeria, I was spending an average of, I'm trying to convert it to dollars now. I think I was spending an average of $100 every week, if I'm correct, for data. It was annoying because my work is majorly online. So I need a lot of data. Interrupted connection, internet connection, to be able to do what I do. Now, when I say data, nonprofits, because of lack of funding, do not have access to so much data to even be online, to get to do some of the work that they need to do, or to access some of the opportunities that they access. Another aspect of data that you'll be looking at is information. So information still boils down to internet connection to get access to that information. So when I say data, I think it comprises of all of that, basically.
Okay. Now, your operation, you say your work is mainly online. So explain to us a little bit, what can people benefit in your work? What do you do actually?
Okay, so what do we do? Like I said, Ella Communications is a full service communications agency where we help nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, and social impact enterprises to build and grow their organizations using tech, media, and communication. So when I say tech, we provide technological solutions and trainings to help nonprofits advance. So at the moment, I haven't spoken about this anywhere. So this is the first platform I'm going to be mentioning this. We're launching a tech program for African nonprofits sometime this year. So this tech program is going to be a training, a 6 weeks training where nonprofits can come in and learn about the different technological solutions that are available to them as a nonprofit organization. So when I say technological solutions, I mean how to use marketing tech, digital marketing tech, website tech, accounting tech, team management tech, all of those kind of different technological solutions that are available. So more details will be coming out for this later in the year. Like I said before, we're still working behind the scenes to get this done. So that's like an example of the tech solution we provide. And this is totally free, thanks to our partners, for nonprofits across Africa. Another technological solution is basically, like I said, in summary, solving the problem of African nonprofits using tech. Now, when we come to digital media would basically, what we do is sharing the stories of African nonprofits using our platforms. So we have a particular series going on right now. It's called the Humanitarians of Africa, where we share stories of amazing nonprofit founders doing amazing work in the African nonprofit space. So this is basically on YouTube, where we stream all the videos that we do, all of that. The media aspect of Ella Communications also focuses on the digital magazine that we are working on right now, and also basically using media to spread the word, representing nonprofits, because excuse me, the aim or the vision of Ella Communications is to solve the problems of African nonprofits using media and also provide them visibility for the work that they do. So we're using our media channels to do all of this, using the different solutions under this. Now, communications and marketing, which is like the last aspect of Ella Communications, includes the marketing solutions that we provide, which is website creation, online media management, consulting, and so many other things that we do under the marketing and communications that we do. So consulting is what I do basically, and then I have a team of people who support with the services, the other marketing and communication services. So the online media management, the website creation, the branding and design, all of that. I have a team that basically helps to deliver on all of those services that we offer. And then we have courses, we have books that I have written that people can leverage on and get to learn to build their organizations. Yeah. So in summary, that's what I do.
That's perfect, Ella. Thank you so much for that. In fact, in data, good that I asked you that question before, no? Because at one point I was thinking that you were actually referring to data in the sense of where the people are, how many people are actually in need of help, how to assess them, things like that. Because a lot of people are actually complaining also about that we don't have enough data. You say, okay, how many secondary schools are maybe in this locality? Sometimes, okay, if you are living in that locality, you will be able to know that. But say maybe, for example, you are in Lagos, you are trying to understand what is the website of a particular secondary school in Enugu State. It becomes difficult to know that because sometimes those data are not available. This is particularly problematic for maybe Nigerian businesses who want to project something to the future. Because if you don't know this data, if you don't know exactly what it is, it becomes very difficult. I understand that data is not, some people might think that it is something new, but it's not something new. We are basically saying putting the information so that people can access it easily, I repeat again, if you were to travel to a particular locality in Enugu State, you will be able to see these people, these places, this facility one by one. But how many people we need to be able to do this to find this information? So I don't know if from this point of view, data have any important role to play in the life of NGO or marketing as like in your job.
Yeah, I think you have a point there. You actually have a point there because when you look at it in that dimension, really a lot of nonprofits suffer from the right information. So you have to be in that locality to be able to know what exactly is available there, which, yeah, we can say is a huge challenge for nonprofit organizations. And also when it comes to marketing, I would say probably. When it comes to marketing, you're not necessarily marketing to the beneficiaries, you're marketing to the donors and the prospective partners. And I would say that at least 80% of them you can get their data online. So when it comes to the supporters or the donors, yeah, we could say, okay, although there are some that are just offline, you cannot even get them online due to their own personal restrictions. So when it comes to reaching out to those beneficiaries, data access to them is also a large issue that organizations face. Yes, you're correct when it comes to that dimension. Yes, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Ella. Now, what would be the concluding part of the conversation? Because it might be something you wanted to say that I didn't ask you, or maybe that is a message you want to leave out there for people that are listening to you. It can even be simply how people can connect with you. It's up to you. Use this few seconds to promote yourself.
Okay, thank you. To every nonprofit founder listening to me out there, I'm proud of you. I love the work that you do, and I'm passionate about it because you are the solution to the problems that we have in the world. But do not get carried away with the beneficiaries or the people that you're trying to help. Try to make out time for yourself because the work that you do can be overwhelming sometimes. So try to make out time for yourself. Relax, take a break, re-strategize, and also ensure that your structure, your communications, your marketing, your programs, everything is in place, and your financials, because that's the only way you can get funding, and everyone is interested in getting funding. So all of these things need to be in place for you to actually attract the funding or get the funding that you need. So for anyone who is interested in my services or reaching out to me or connecting with me, you can get me on LinkedIn as Emmanuella Imo, or you can visit my website www.ellacommunications.com. Ella with a H. So ELLAH.communications.com. That's exactly how you can reach out to me. Or you can send me an email at Ella with a H again, Ella@ellacommunications.com. So ELLAH@ellacommunications.com. Thank you.
That's perfect, Ella. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Really, I'll be very, very interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I had fun. Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.